Hi guys, welcome back to the Talk Real to Me podcast. I'm your host, Macaulay Stahowski. Today, another guest, super excited. You guys are going to hear me say this every time that I have a guest on. We have Adan Covarrubias.
There you go.
On today.
Nice work.
There we go. Excited to have you on. A long career in the military, Navy specifically. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Anything that you would like to tell anyone starting out. How long you've been in your career also. Let's get it all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. There's so much. Hey, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure to know you and your family and just the things that you guys do for the community. So amazing stuff with Topic Realty and Wingman Foundation and stuff like that. So I appreciate being here with you all today. So
thank you.
Yeah, Adan Cherry Covarrubias. That's me. I've been in the Navy for just about 29 years, retired. This is actually my last month on active duty, but I'm terminal, so I'll be fully retired at the end of this month.
Celebrate.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. 25 years and 4 months. Probably a couple days in there too, if I'm counting every single day.
Wow.
Going in there. So, and another 4 years at the Naval Academy. Prior to that, I graduated in 1998 from Annapolis. So years ago. So it's been almost 3 decades in the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been an amazing time, and there's a lot more to that story, which I'm sure we'll cover through the conversation. But most of my time has been here in Hanford, California, Lemoore, California.
Wow.
I'm born and raised in Orange County, and left to go to college back in 1994.
Okay.
To Annapolis,
Michigan. I saw that you were.
No, Maryland.
Oh, Maryland.
Yeah, Annapolis, Maryland. Yeah.
Okay, I saw that you were at a Michigan game here.
Yeah, Michigan. That's a whole nother story. So I played football for Navy back in the late '90s.
Wow.
I was a punter back then. But Michigan, my youngest son Brady, I made a promise to him that I'd take him to Ann Arbor to go see a game. So now that I'm retired, I was able to do that, and I took him last weekend. We saw Michigan play Bowling Green in the Big House, which if you haven't been, highly recommend getting over there to see. That was a pretty amazing experience.
It looked cool.
Very cool.
Unique, and gosh, just that whole stadium where you guys were taking pictures. I was like, that's a massive stadium.
There was 109,955 friends there.
Wow.
For that game.
I like how you emphasize friends.
Friends, yeah, friends. And it's at first not the first night game, but it was a night game, and they had just installed these lights. So it was the first, I think, at least what I was being told, first night show in there. So there's a pretty epic production over there in Ann Arbor, and just what a cool town.
Yeah,
met with some few friends and some family over there. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that you're enjoying the retired life already.
Oh, it's amazing.
Instantly.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Go and travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the very beginning.
Okay.
What family or anyone in the military at all, or were you first one in there to do it?
No, absolutely. I think I grew up in a family with a lot of service.
Okay.
My grandfather was a retired chief in the Navy, and then chief warrant officer as well back many years ago. My dad was in the Army, fought in Vietnam War era. I had a lot of uncles that were Army, Marine Corps, all kind of fought during Vietnam War era. A lot of cousins that have served in the Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps in various regimes. And I got nephews that have served as well. So, growing up, there's a lot of service in my family. So when I was looking at what I wanted to do kind of in the high school days, my grandfather was probably one of the biggest influences in my life. And just, when I go over to his house to see him and my grandmother, there's a lot of Navy pride in that house. And I could just tell by the way they carried themselves, and just, the cleanliness, the organization, the smell of clean, and just how he handled our family, just the love and stuff like that he had for everybody. He was probably my biggest influence to get into the Navy. And then in high school days, I was blessed enough to be a pretty decent athlete, and I did pretty good in school. So I was recruited to play football at the D1 level at Annapolis at the Naval Academy. So that's kind of where I chose to go. Here I am about 30 years later, sitting in Hanford, chatting with you with retired career. So
Yeah.
it's gone pretty quick and pretty fast, but it's been an amazing ride.
I love it.
Yeah.
Boot camp, was it, something instantly as soon as you got out from, was it college then when you did?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
So when you go to the Naval Academy, it's a little bit different. That first year is you have a plebe. We call them plebes. That's the term for freshmen at Annapolis, and so you have a plebe summer, and that's in lieu of what you would look for like a traditional boot camp for a service.
Okay.
So you're there all summer, and you get that full indoctrination. You go there on I Day. I think I turned 18 that day that I joined.
Oh, wow.
Instant. Instant. My parents took me over, dropped me off. We had a good little weekend in Annapolis. And if you haven't been to Maryland in that area, it's one of the most beautiful areas in our country. I just remember walking around, everybody's so nice to you.
Yeah.
And then there's that time they take you, you get the haircut. They issue all the gear, and then there's this point in time where you walk into the dorms. And I remember the specific door that you walk into, and you say goodbye to your parents. You walk through that door, and then it's just chaos. 100 of your non-friends yelling at you, and it's day one. At that point, you kind of realize, like, oh crap, things are going to change.
I'm committed.
I'm committed. You already got the haircut, so you're committed anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're committed at that point. And so you do that for a period of time, for the full summer. And then we call the Brigade of Midshipmen. That's what we call the student body.
Okay.
And then they come back to campus after their summer. So you've met all these detailers for that first couple months there, and then you have another 3,000 people come in, and they're grilling you, and so you get a full year of that. Whereas boot camp is kind of a set time where you kind of go through that, and then you get either enlisted or a commission on the officer side. But at the academy, it lasts about a year until you see some freedom for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's longer than a normal boot camp.
Longer than a normal
I've been
boot camp.
hearing.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that. So you end up getting out after 4 years. Instantly, you're in the service. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So everybody that goes to, a service academy, be it Annapolis, West Point, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, incurs a service commitment. The good news is you don't pay for college, so everybody's on scholarship there. It's hard to get in. The class sizes initially are anywhere from like 800 to 1,000, but you have applicants in the 10,000s normally for acceptance.
Wow.
So that's the good news. So you go through that process, and then when you graduate, depending on what you select for your service commitment, gets you a amount of years that you have to then serve in the military.
Okay.
During my period of time, once I graduated for aviation, it was 8 years from the time I got my wings.
Wow.
It typically takes you about a year and a half to 2 years to get your wings at that point. So you incur about roughly 10 years after you graduate till you can actually get out of the service.
Wow.
Or make that decision. And it's a little bit different if you go surface, submarine, Navy SEALs, different things like that.
Okay.
Marine Corps as well, because many people don't know, but Marine Corps falls under the Navy and the DoD infrastructure. So the Naval Academy graduates not only Navy graduates, but also Marine Corps graduates.
Military.
Yeah. Let's go.
Military personnel is what it sounds like.
That's right.
I love that. I didn't know that. That's very unique in that aspect, especially a big commitment like that too. I didn't know that you could commit for even longer. I've been hearing 4 years, usually 5 or 6. For bonuses.
Yeah, for sure. And that's typically on the enlisted side. So somebody enlists in the Navy.
Okay.
There's a couple different things, right? You have the enlisted ranks and the officer ranks. So if you go to a normal recruiter, in your hometown or something like that, you can then enlist to a service, and that enlistment will bring typically 4 years, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on what you select. There's amazing bonuses for those that want to enlist right now. I was with a kid the other day. He's not a kid. He's a young man. He's an adult. But I served with his dad.
Wow. Okay.
And he just enlisted under a submarine contract. I think, and I won't put names out here, but he's probably 18, 19, 20, but roughly about that time frame. I think he's probably about 19 years old. and he got an enlisted bonus of $75,000 to enlist for a submarine career. And then after he does his time, and it's nuclear submarine, so the kid's wicked smart, and then after a period of time, he'll have the ability to re-enlist, and I'm sure there'll be another bonus there for him too. So,
wow.
So anybody out there that's looking for a career, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
For somebody that maybe is just not ready to go to college, or just doesn't really know what they want to do, or is looking for some structure, is looking for, to get out of the town that they live in and just kind of see the world for a little bit. There's a lot of great opportunities, And then on the other side, on the commissioning side for the officers typically all have a 4-year degree. And so if you have that, and you want to join the service, then you kind of need to look for an officer recruiter.
Okay.
And that's a little bit niche. You got to go kind of search that one out, because they don't typically coincide with the enlisted recruiter.
Got it. Okay.
So that's a little bit different. And other than that, there's some other commissioning sources. The largest being service academies. I think most people in our country have heard of the United States Naval Academy. Or have heard of West Point.
Yeah.
Some of these big schools.
That's instantly where I think.
Yeah, exactly right. If you watch, if you're into college football like we are, right, or football in general, you have the Army-Navy game that you play, once a year, with huge tradition in our country. And that would be West Point versus the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
Those are schools where people go and get education and get their degrees. And then outside of that, you can go to any normal college, and then either via like an officer commissioning program, or finding some kind of officer recruiter in your hometown, try to get into the service that way as an officer as well.
I love it.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to that too.
Yeah,
but that's kind of the highlights.
It sounds like it. I heard aviation in there. So what have you flown in your career, start to finish?
Oh man, start to finish. I started out in a T-34. Was kind of a turbo prop airplane. That's kind of the first thing that I flew, and that would have been back in the 90s. I mean, we're dating ourselves now a little bit, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000 time frame, and then I went to a T2, which was kind of a Korean era jet trainer airplane.
Okay.
T-45 Goshawk. Which was a British designed trainer as well. First time I had a heads up display was in that airplane. And then from there I was able to get, and this is a whole nother story too, but how you go through flight school and how you select the different selections on what you get to fly. But, out of flight school, I was able to go that jet route and that T2, T45. Then I got into F-18 training. So got to Lemoore, in 2000, 2001 timeframe as well, and flew F-18 alphas through G's, but back then it was only Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, so the legacy Hornets, we call them the baby Hornets, back in those days.
Okay.
So, but yeah, throughout my career, several thousand hours in F-18s, be it either legacy or Super Hornets. And then between 400 and 500 hours in F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, which is our nation's 5th generation stealth fighter.
Yeah, I hear they're hard to find.
Hard to find. More recently than not. Yeah, a little hard to find, but we did find it. We did find it.
That's what matters. I mean, I figure that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a very good thing.
Yeah.
We like to kind of keep those things close hold and bias, but so we do what we take to kind of find where they're at when we lose them.
I love it. So you started out obviously at a little bit of a higher rank when you get out from college, is what I'm gathering. Rather than your enlisted side, you're right. Starting out a little higher.
Yeah, it's not really a higher rank. It's just a different rank structure.
Okay.
So as an officer, it's you're at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to officer rank. So you're an ensign, which is the lowest commissioned officer rank for service. From that service when you go to like a service academy.
Okay.
And then you go through the ranks, lieutenant, JG. So 01, 02, 03 is lieutenant. It would be the same as when you go enlisted ranks, E1, E2, E3.
Got it. Okay.
And it's just a different path. Not that one's better than the other. It's just kind of a different path.
Right.
And it takes a little bit more, college education, things like that to kind of get into the officer ranks. Whereas like when you enlist, you can pretty much enlist right from high school and join a service there. And, we have a lot of enlisted sailors, Marines that then get commissions and go into the officer ranks.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing as well, so, so it's just a different structure.
Got it. I want to hit where you ended, obviously. What was your rank when you ended, and then your deployments? Let's hit both.
Okay.
What were you doing during those ranks? And then talk about, the grind side of deployments.
Yeah, it's I've had an amazing career, lots of challenges, lots of great moments. There as well. When I graduated the Naval Academy, I went through the flight school, and once I got through flight school, I was able to select, as we said, F-18s, and I got to VFA 125 here in Lemoore, California, which back then was the training command for F-18. From then, I was able to join my first squadron, which was VFA 113, the Stingers, and that was my first real awakening or welcome to the real world of the Navy and deployment cycle. I went on my first deployment on the Lincoln. It was 10 and a half months, and it was during OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom. In there, and I saw combat for the first time. So that would have been in 2000. We left in 2002. OIF was in 2003. We got back. A little bit later, I think it was about June for that specific deployment, but 10 and a half months. And at that time, it was the fourth longest deployment in naval history. I flew opening night combat missions into Baghdad that night as we call him a nugget, as a brand new pilot in a squadron there as well. So, I grew a lot during that deployment. We were just up at Tailhook, recently in Reno, and we celebrated OIF and some of the amazing stories of things that we did during that deployment. Just the sacrifices and things that we made. Personally, on a personal story on that, I was supposed to get married in 2003 during that time frame. It was we were on the Lincoln, we were on the carrier, and it was New Year's Day, and we were sitting in the galley in the forward wardroom, getting some food with my fellow junior officers, lieutenants over there. And we heard some of the ship's civilian personnel talking about an extended deployment, and we hadn't heard anything at that time at all, so we kind of look over and like, what are you guys talking about? And they had kind of mentioned us, hey, yeah, we're going to get extended. And that later on that day, it came on the 1MC, the speaker on the carrier, and let us know that we were getting extended for indefinite amount of time.
Wow.
Which was tough. So I had to call my wife and kind of let her know, hey, I don't know what's going on, but we may need to postpone the wedding.
I'm sure she took that very well.
Yeah, she took that very well.
Yeah. Shout out to Holly. I'm sure that went very well.
So then we got extended for a few more months, and I celebrated 4th of July in 2002, and then I came home and celebrated 4th of July in 2003.
Wow.
And flew numerous combat missions into Iraq, dropping numerous weapons in there. And prior to that, we had flown lots of combat missions in Afghanistan too. So we were well trained and prepared and prepped. But I don't think anybody ever gets ready for being gone for almost a year. So that was the beginning.
Yeah,
of the career.
That's how you started, is what I'm gathering, right?
Right. That's how I started.
Wow. So. And you still, what was your confidence level at that point? Were you still like, hey, this is a career for me, I'm in this for the long run? Or did that ever change? Did your mindset be like, oh, this is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me during that time, that's what we joined up to do. That's why we wanted to be in that career. It was that ability to serve our country. It was that ability to go in combat and make a difference. Fighter pilots are athletes. They train hard, they work hard, and a lot of other people do that as well. But in any given mission, you're always putting your life at risk. That opening night, I remember that opening night where I think a lot of people probably, if you go back to those days where where President Bush got on TV and was talking about, combat sorties in Iraq that night. It was a very orchestrated attack at nighttime with 3 carriers, Air Force, as well, out of several countries. And I think we had roughly about 800 airplanes airborne at that time.
Wow.
And it was orchestrated to where our weapons would impact at 8 o'clock local time around Baghdad. And I remember I was on the first salvo of fighters going in, and I had 3 HARM missiles, which are high-speed anti-radiation missiles that are designed to kind of go down, look for radiation. If anybody's trying to track the fighters, those weapons would then look for that source and try to take those out so that the strike package and the fighter package can kind of get in there unarmed, if you will. And I remember looking down. We shot these weapons off, and we end up kind of going out so that the fighters and the strikers behind us could kind of go in. And I remember looking down at 8 o'clock, right at that precise time, and just seeing, these impacts left and right. And, it's just something you just can't explain to people,
Right.
And then immediately after that, I saw these lights kind of flicker down low, and these sources start to get a little bit bigger and brighter and bigger and brighter. And then I realized that they're starting to shoot at us. And these were then surface-to-air missiles that were coming up at our airplanes. We had to, do some maneuvers and things like that. But these missiles would start to come in between the sections and kind of fly through here as we were doing some maneuvers to kind of get out there. And that was the point where it became real.
Yeah, there's no going back.
There's no going back, And then we did, combat missions weeks after weeks, and just missions like that for a long period of time. And, and numerous ones that, we're getting shot at in many different ways, whether it was surface-to-air missiles or surface-to-air artillery coming at our jets, where we'd have to evade and get back to the carrier, And at the end of that, that's what makes Navy pilots different than anybody else, is we have to do a carrier landing, so imagine imagine being, in country for 4 or 5 hours, sometimes even longer. And now you have to come back and focus and, land the jet on the carrier deck at nighttime. So that's how it started,
man.
And it was
got chills right now.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But I look back, that was 2003 timeframe. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But just amazing time, amazing accomplishment for young men and young women on what we do, and not just the pilots in the airplane, but just the enlisted personnel maintainers, everybody on the flight deck that worked hard to get those jets ready, to put those weapons on the airplane, to help us launch and land, and just do all the little things to allow us to do what we need to do. And as I look back at my service and time, we've done a lot of amazing things, but it's always about the people. It's always about the people we serve with, the people you lead, and just the diverse, people in our country that just make these things be amazing in many different ways. And, kind of what you guys do in real estate, kind of the same thing, where, you're going out and helping people, find homes, buy homes, and things like that. It's the service and the people that you work with that make it different.
I don't think we can compare anything in real estate to what you just told us that you did, but I do appreciate that. No, I do. It's man, that's crazy. So you come home, obviously there's trauma from something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And marriage. So did you end up getting married as soon as you came back, or how did that?
We would have liked to. What happened, and those that have served can relate with this. We came home, we went right into a workup cycle, and then right back out on a second deployment. Of course. Yeah, so that again, that's welcome to the military, so we were supposed to get, Holly and I were supposed to get married in 2003, and we didn't get married till 2005. So we had to postpone our wedding for about 2 years.
Wow.
So after that second deployment, back-to-back deployments, we were able to get married and start that journey.
I love it.
So, yeah.
I heard you drop the word leader. That is you. Ever since I've met you, you've been a leader, a true leader. I've noticed just the way you act, very professional. The way you get to know people is what makes you a good leader. The thing that stood out to me is when Dustin retired, you went through my whole family and gave them a sentence or two, and you've never even met some of them, so I knew that you placed a call, or you're just watching or seeing what Brianna is saying about the kids. You literally went through my whole family, 2 rows of people, and just gave them all a little shout out to make everyone feel special. And that moment gave me chills instantly, because not only I love Dustin, I knew they were losing a good one, but I knew you were there also. So the definition of a leader, I could see why you got so many promotions in your life. I could see why you were so dedicated to what the craft is of the military, to where I wanted to work for you. I never thought about the military until Dustin's retirement, and I'm like, you know what? This might be a good guy to work for. How many personnel have you looked over in your career, would you say?
Oh man, a lot, lot, I don't count numbers. Again, I've been blessed to be in just a lot of great positions.
Yeah.
I took command of VFA 146, the Blue Diamonds, in 2015-16 timeframe. So that was my first opportunity to really lead a squadron and a unit. And that particular unit had about between 200 and 300 sailors there. After that, I went to Millington, Tennessee, and I was the head detailer for aviation. I was the guy that you called to get your next set of orders and where you wanted to go and things like that. So that was a challenging job, but a great job too, because you made a huge impact on people. And one of those jobs as well, I helped manage most of a lot of our carrier aviation officers in there, and that particular job, with a lot of people that I worked with, we managed 10,000 or so people across many different communities. And then after that job, I was selected to go command my second squadron, which was VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, out of Eglin Air Force Base. So we got to live, in the Emerald Coast of Florida for a little bit of time.
Makes you want to stay there?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, amazing area. Very unique for the Navy. We have Pensacola, obviously, which is there too, which is kind of the cradle of naval aviation, where we all kind of go through at some point in our aviator career. But Eglin's just a different area, and you're kind of on an island over there with a lot of Air Force people, and just an amazing place, amazing sailors over there that we work with, and that was awesome. And then after that, I went to VFA 125, which is so VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, was the first JSF F-35 training command. We, as a Navy, built VFA 125 and transitioned them from Hornets to F-35s as well.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we shut down 101 Grim Reapers on the East Coast to consolidate our airplanes as we grew as a F-35 Navy, and we brought a lot of those sailors back into different spots that we just needed some manpower at. So then I was back here in Lemoore at VFA 125, was able to command that squadron. And that was a pretty large squadron. We had almost 600 people in that one.
Wow.
And then from that, I went and was the wing commander for Joint Strike Fighter Wing. Under that command, we had multiple units in there. So we had VFA 125, VFA 147, which was the first F-35 operational Navy squadron. And then VFA 97, which is the second as well, second Navy F-35 operational squadron, and we'll continue to transition those year after year. So, I've been able to, lead and I really call serve with, I've been blessed to be at the top of the pyramid in many ways, but, I go back, it's just all about the people, and, that humble that humble leadership. I've been checked many times in my life too. I've made many mistakes, flying different things, so it's one of those things where you just kind of learn over a period of time. And, it's important to know who you work with. And I always had a mantra that I try to treat everybody like they're somebody. And I always try to find, like a little piece of somebody, whether it was, for me, it was always sports. I love sports. I'm a big football guy. And if I could, meet somebody, and if I could, figure out, where are they from? Like, what team do they like? I could always put that to a face or something like that. So when I came back, it gave me something to remember them by. And, small talk, things like that would then generate, bigger discussions.
Right.
And you create, partnerships, create, community, a family environment, where people, I think, want to come to work, want to put the effort into it and enjoy what they're doing, and that was always kind of my mantra.
I love it. A leader.
Yeah.
That's exactly
it. Yeah.
I read a book. So actually Dustin sent me a reel on Instagram, Make Your Bed.
Yes. Admiral McRaven.
My gosh.
Yes. Great book.
It's a short book, but it gets to the point to where, I read through it, super inspired. A leader, I can see exactly why.
Yep.
And Dustin was shocked that I actually went and bought the book. So he sent that to me, and I looked up his name, and I was like, oh, he's an admiral. He must, have something.
Yes.
Something good in this. Went and bought it, told Dustin I bought it. And it was really inspirational. Honestly, I've started the podcast with, starting to read that book. And I was making my bed,
Well, I mean, the point behind that book, it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
Right. And his point, he tells a lot of stories in that book, which is amazing. But his point is, when you wake up in the morning, find something to do.
Right.
Right. Have a goal. Like every day, have a goal. I did that too. That was kind of one of the things that I used as I commanded, many different squadrons over the years. Every time I would wake up in the morning, I'd have 2 or 3 things that I wanted to accomplish that day. And as I went to work and did those things, I wouldn't leave until those things were accomplished. And if I could accomplish those 2 or 3 things, then I knew I had a successful day, and then I would write my things for the next day.
Right.
And I think that was the Admiral's point was, if you could wake up in the morning and you can make your bed, you accomplish your first thing of that day.
Yeah.
And it kind of sets you on a path to where, what's your next wicket? What's your next goal? What's the next thing that you want to do, accomplish? And if you can do that first thing, well, now you're on track to kind of meet your goals for the next things in life,
That's it.
And it's a pretty, easy thing to do in the morning, but it kind of sets you on a path to just accomplish great things.
I think what I grabbed from that, I'm on the same page as you for sure. What I loved about making the bed, first thing in the morning is you can have a horrible day, doesn't go right. You come back, your bed's made. It looks good, easy to hop in.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, make your bed again.
Make it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had that mindset. It really flipped a switch in my head to where I was like, hey, good days are going to come. That's going to be great too. But this is more the bad. And then also with him going through adversity, being hurt and jumping out of the plane and that whole ordeal, I was like, oh, man, this guy had, a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
throughout the process.
He's had an amazing career as well.
Yeah, so. I compare him to you at this point, honestly.
No, it's humbling. I appreciate that.
I really do. Just your demeanor and the way that you're talking about other people. I throw you on the same boat. I really do.
No, thanks.
I feel that you can inspire a lot around not just family, but in the community. We'll hit that too here towards the end about what you're doing outside of work now. I do want to hit a suicide crisis I feel has happened. Obviously, that is going to be standard with military, unfortunately. In your time in there, have you noticed an increase of suicides going on? And is there any way that you would recommend people to get help that's in the military for that?
Yeah, that's I appreciate that question. We've had a lot of discussions in the last several years with many Navy leaders about mental health, suicide, things like that. I think a long time ago, when we look at several decades ago, we just weren't aware, or as aware as we are now, with what people go through in life. Obviously, throughout the commands and just, being able to lead, I've dealt with that quite a bit. If you look at some of the statistical numbers currently right now, at least in the military, I think more people have died from suicide than they've died from actual combat.
Wow.
Which is a tough thing. If you look at, I was looking at the other day, just world statistics and things like that. They'll tell you, depending on what you read, but somebody in this world's trying to commit suicide every 30 seconds, and somebody's successful every 10 to 15 minutes. And that's a tough thing. One thing we did on base at Lemoore is we built a building called the Fleet Resilience Center, and what we did is we put this source, this place where people could go closer to the flight line, closer to where people worked. And we embedded them with chaplains over there. So chaplains had offices over there. And what it allowed was a place where a sailor or Marine could go and talk with somebody. And maybe we could identify different things earlier before we got to that point where somebody, decides to take his or her life. Or go through that process, and if they're going down that path, then we try to get them help as quickly as possible, whether it's, going to a local ER, or maybe they need to go to, like an in-center somewhere they have to stay for a period of time. I think what we've done well recently in the military is we've highlighted the fact that it's there.
Right.
That mental health is real. Mental health is a problem. And
it's the first step.
It's a first step. Yeah. And not only that, but, giving sailors and Marines tools to identify issues with people and have real conversations and ask the question about how are you doing? Do you need help? And then being able to speak, right? And not being afraid to say, hey, so-and-so I saw an issue with so-and-so. We might need to take a look at that. And then maybe we can send a chaplain over there to go talk to that person. Or maybe a mentor to go talk to that person, to where we can get that person help before it kind of gets to that next step. So that's kind of where we've gone a little bit more recently. Identifying it, having real conversations in small groups, large groups, doing training on it, and then providing a lot of resources to get people to maybe talk more or get help as quickly as possible before it kind of gets to the next step. But mental health is real. We see it a lot more, I think, throughout the country these days than we did. At least when I was younger,
right.
Decades ago, or when I first joined the military, I don't think we talked about it as much back then as well. And from that area, it impacts mission. Sometimes it, we need to get the military healthy so we can do what we need to do. But in civilian life as well too, it's really about taking care of people and getting them the help that they need.
I love it. I'm glad that there's at least the admitting side. That, like I said, that's usually that first step, is admitting there's an issue, and then it sounds like there's a detailed plan going on for the people that do need it or are scared to admit it too.
Right. Yeah.
That's the main thing, is don't be scared to talk to anyone. In that case, you guys, deployments, like you said, 10 and a half months.
Long time.
That's a very long time.
Long time, and then you talk, PTSD, things like that, different levels and different services, I think the big difference too is we think about, the difference between like military and civilian life. In the military, we have the ability to kind of force people to go into programs. On the civilian side, it's harder to do, so it takes maybe a lot more work, a lot more effort to kind of get somebody to kind of go into that path when we see something where somebody may need help as well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Going to end it on a couple things here.
Okay.
So you ended your career on a high note. Saw that you went to a last flight at a 49er game.
Oh, yes.
So some people may notice your face instantly if you're a 49er fan. We'll make sure to throw that clip on there.
Oh, big fan.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's talk about your last flight. And then let's talk about your career now. So you got job offers towards the end, but let's go ahead and talk about that last flight first.
Yeah, the last flight, a great friend of mine was able to kind of set up a flyover for 49ers Cardinals game. I believe it was this past January. So we went down to Moffett Airfield and we did a flyover for them down there. I love the team. I'm a huge fan. Anybody who knows me knows that I bleed 49ers. So that was a great last flyover for me to do. Crazy about those things. We landed in Moffett and we were talking to the local airport, the international airport down there, and they gave us a 7-minute window, take off to land.
Oh, wow.
7-minute window.
Okay.
So Smoka, Jed Johnson was a good friend of mine too, was leading the flight. And we had to time it till we were on the runway. And we had to take off to the north, but we had to stay south of San Francisco International and Oakland International Airport. We couldn't go. So we had pretty much like a 5 to 10 mile buffer to make this thing happen, to hit the timing right on timing within 10 seconds.
Okay.
So we're on the runway getting ready to take off and we're looking at our timing. We take off to the north. We do one jog to the south, hit the timing pretty much perfect. So great job by him. And then turn back to the north and land. Before I could even take a couple breaths, we're taking off.
Back.
We've landed and we've done the flyover, and we hit the timing pretty amazing. And my good buddy Jawa was there on the top, doing the timing there as well, and set it up for us. And but it was an amazing experience. We got back down. We got on the field. And the 49ers, just a class act of an organization, class act of a team, got on the field there and introduced us to the crowd, as they kind of normally do for any kind of flyover. And the great thing I wasn't expecting, and I really appreciate it, and I was able to kind of end my career on a real high note, was they talked about my retirement when I was on the field with my family in the stands. And just got an amazing applause by the faithful by the bay over there, and just kind of a standing ovation as we walked off the field. And I was able to show a little bit of 49er colors on the field there as well, which was an amazing experience. And as I was doing that, I could see Kittle on the sideline, with his hands up in the air, clapping big time for us and for the military. So. I truly appreciate that experience, and the organization's phenomenal. Took great care of us, and it's just a memory that I'll live with forever.
That's a great way to end your career right there. Obviously, that you can't just close it and go to tomorrow.
No,
but
yeah,
that's definitely a cherished memory, and that organization, you just hear nothing but good things.
Nothing but good things. You're a fan too, so so we share that in common. And
family's from the Bay, so it's just all Bay Area teams.
All Bay Area teams.
Gotta love them. Gotta love what they do. Your career. So after that point, you're obviously looking at a job after.
Right.
What career paths could you have gone with? What job offers did you have? And then talk about where you're at now and why you chose going with Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, sure. I think anybody who's had a pretty successful career in the service will have, different opportunities afterwards. Many of us, once we retire, for me, again, I did over 25 years commission, close to 29 years if you count the Naval Academy in there. You build a skill set, right, that you take with you that's very unique for what you do. And for me specifically, I've worked with F-35, that program, that specific airplane, with many different organizations, with Lockheed Martin, obviously specifically, Northrop Grumman, and some of the other different defense contract companies out there. And they're all amazing companies as well. There's a couple things that I was looking at. I think for Holly and I, the biggest thing is, we're local people. I lived in Hanford Lemoore longer than I lived in any other area in my life. We love it here. We love the community. We love everything about this town. We love the growth, the people, the vibe, the feel, being in California. And so we wanted to stay here locally. My wife was born in Hanford. A lot of people don't know that. So she's from here. And me being from Orange County, my parents aren't that far away. So, again, everything that I was taught at a young age that I took it in the military with taking care of people, service, leadership, comes from family. Family's everything to me, and moving away from family was tough, would be tough, So Lockheed Martin was definitely the top of
kept you here.
Kept me here. They were the top of the choice, and really the company that I wanted to work for, because I've been working with them for many years in this program, and there's just a lot of great people in that company that are really connected with and have great relationships with. So that's what I do now. I work over and I continue to teach people how to fly F-35s. But the great part about that is, I'm able to kind of keep my identity in some sense. I still have ties to the base, to the military, to the people that I worked with before, and I keep my skill set sharp, and by being able to teach and do those kinds of things. It also opens up a lot of time to do things outside.
You're a coach.
Yeah, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
And
shout out to
Sierra Pacific.
You guys right now.
Golden Bears. Yeah, we're I work for and coach with head coach Ryan DeSantos.
Okay.
And he's old Hanford High East Campus coach. He came on over, and we have just an amazing coaching staff, amazing school staff, and obviously just amazing young men and kids over there that we are working with and helping groom as well. And I love doing that. We talked a little bit about my Naval Academy experience, but back in the late 90s, I was a punter for Navy. So I'd be able to kind of leverage that a little bit and take it over to the high school, and I'm the special teams coordinator over there. So I coach all kicking aspects, all return aspects, anything special teams. I get to help with and coach with over there. And we had a great game last night against Kern Valley High School from Bakersfield, and had a good victory, 49-0. And we're doing pretty good right now. We are 5-0, so I think people can look that up. But we'll tell you, it's in our minds we're still 0-0. We're looking to continue just to work hard. We start league this next coming week against Selma. We have our homecoming game coming up as well, and for us, it's we're going to get back to the grind, work hard, continue to do what we're doing, and get these men ready for the next game, so we can continue to do what we do. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Still out here leading kids.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Honestly, thank you for taking the time out. I know you're busy. Obviously, you got a lot of stuff going on through your week.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you guys do again for the military, for our service members, and for the community, whether it's Top Hawk or Wingman Foundation. It's amazing work that you and Brianne, Brianne leads it, and she's done great work, and we're honored to be part of your family and do whatever we can to help you guys out.
Cherry, I love it. We'll get into the call signs another time.
It sounds
I heard
good.
Smoka, we got Jawa, we heard some different names out there, but we'll plan a different episode for that, maybe get all you guys in here. And
awesome. Looking forward
we can
to
hear
it.
some good stories from you guys.
Sounds good, brother.
All right. Thank you, Adan. Adan.
Yes.
Adan. Make sure I say that right.
Good.
Adan, appreciate you coming out, and thank you for your service and your time, your effort, your sacrifice. It's appreciated more than you think. And then for all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening, and we appreciate your service also.